art is everything and everywhere, just like science, just like math, just like history. It
Mhm.
conforms everything we own, everything we want to be. It's
Mhm.
existence itself. That's art. It's the privilege of showing your humanity or showing your
Mm.
existence in the physical world. And if you want to make it transcendental, then you can even make your art become something important in the spiritual world. There's
Mhm.
so many things. And to be honest, I feel privileged to practice that. And I know,
Mhm.
like for example, you like you might use it for many things and it's still art. So maybe you have not known yet the form of art that you express best. But you are an artist. This is
Yeah, we all have it in us.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. This
Yeah.
right here happening right here in this specific moment, the way you're
Yeah.
expressing yourself, the way we're organizing this whole interview, the way it's displayed, that's art. Editing is art.
Yeah.
Being capable of projecting yourself in a way, it's art. You are an artist, but in the publishing world, in the
Mm.
world, in the you know,
Never, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I like that.
yeah,
I
it
like
is. I,
that.
I and I can see that you're very dedicated as well.
Yeah.
From artist to artist, I congratulate you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, let me start with our little intro. We are back with another episode of the Morning Chat. I'm Gabby Donato, and I'm here with Rachel Smith, and she is a artivist in Puerto Rico, and we're going to chat about her culture and some current issues that the island is facing. So, welcome, Rachel, and thank you for coming on.
Thanks to you for inviting me. I feel it's a big privilege. And I also thank you for taking your time to make interviews to people that dedicate their life to different things.
Mhm.
And in this episode to artivism. So
Yeah.
I
When
can
I
can
talked to Christina, she mentioned you, and I was like, wow, this definitely seems like someone that I have to have on and talk with because it seems like you're involved in a lot of great things.
it's true. It's true all the time. Literally like all the time. Today is Sunday and I've been here all day. This is the
Wow.
Puerto Rican Cultural Center. I'm
Mhm.
a arts resident of this cultural center, which is called Casa de Arte Cultura de la Playa de Ponce, which is
Okay.
in my hometown on the south part of Puerto Rico in Ponce. So
Nice.
I feel like that's I'm always working. We have been organizing a series of events that are going to be taking place throughout the month, and a specific one is going to be the grand opening to the community of this cultural center that has been, well, operating since 2016.
Oh,
But
wow.
now we have made official certain things and spaces for the public
Nice.
use, specifically for the community. And also like of this in this event we're gonna be educating people from the community and outside the community about the history itself of the place, of the whole community. We have been documenting, making recordings, and we are making interactive maps. We're making interactive routes so we can take students around the area so they can know important events and important people, places that are around the area, and they can have this sense of pertenencia, have this sense of culture and of
Mhm.
knowledge of their origins.
Is that what you're mainly speaking about with your community?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it's very important for an artist. Like art is everywhere, as I told you. But in a practice of an artivist, you need to pick your battles.
Mm.
Puerto Rico, there's a lot of battles. It's survival mode 24/7
Mm.
um, for so many reasons. And I found not only me, but there's a big movement that has found that art can serve to communities and can serve to a good displacement and to generate more peace within the
Mhm.
soul of repressed people. And I think it's very important to practice it in that way, not only in the aesthetic way, because art coming from knowledge can mean freedom.
Mm.
Art coming from just aesthetics can mean slavery. And that has so many connotations right there. I choose to practice art from knowledge, and I choose to teach art from that perspective to make it
Right,
strong.
right. And what do you think are some of the main human rights issues that the island is facing right now?
That's when I read that question, I needed to think a lot.
Mhm.
Let's put it this way. There is a hole, right, in the
Mhm.
ground. And in that hole, there is all the Puerto Ricans.
Mm.
There is now over that hole, pointing to that hole, a lot, thousands of different tubes, just like pouring water over that hole. And you try to kind of like block the holes so you don't get drowned into all that water. But there's so many other holes that you need to. So people is disoriented for all like the corruption,
Mhm.
the normalized culture of accepting and justifying corruption. And on
Mhm.
top of that, the condition of Puerto Rico being a colony. So it was called Commonwealth, but the principle of a Commonwealth is the same one as a colony. So we have
Okay.
become this colony, one of the oldest colonies in the world. And it's
Right.
very sad that this situation is coming from a um, government that preaches democracy.
Mm.
I personally can say that this is a way of genocide. It's a way of big repression, and it's a way of killing an entire country because Puerto Rico is a country itself. We have a culture totally different from mainland. It has almost nothing to do, but our relationship with mainland is historically huge. We became citizens because there was soldiers needed, so they forced us to become citizens. But then, like it implied a lot of different things. There's a lot of the history of the United States with Puerto Rico that has not been taught in school,
Mhm.
specifically because Department of Education is well, it's managed by main government. So there's a lot of things that they would not want us to learn or to remember, and a lot of the political history um, has been taught in institutions sometimes that are not even related to school. So there's a lot of things that Puerto Ricans are now learning. I actually recommend you a book. It's called
Yeah.
War Against All Puerto Ricans. It's written by Nelson Adenis. He's a lawyer. He made this huge investigation, and it's a kind of like a summary of a lot of the things that are happening in Puerto Rico. Human rights are being, violated all over the place.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't want to say the country right now is in such a terrible situation
Mhm.
because, on the other hand, we have a lot of beautiful things, and we still don't want to leave the
Right.
island. And so much
Right.
the culture is really strong. But regarding human rights, there's a lot of things that are being privatized. Essential services like electricity, like water, everything is being
Mhm.
monopolized by privatization. Healthcare. There's terrible things happening with healthcare in Puerto Rico. These insurances are taking huge advantages of like old population, the older population, practically taking advantage of their economic situation and their needs. This it's topped with the James Jones Act. which is
Mhm.
what we call leyes de cabotaje. It's practically a law imposed over Puerto Rican commerce, where we are not allowed to have any economic intercourse with any country. We are only allowed to negotiate with US, and practically that's the most expensive way to do business globally. So
Oh, wow.
it's a big loss. We pay huge taxes, one of the highest taxes, and also laws for workers are terrible. So there's a lot of things in so many ways, like I told you, that are kind of like causing this human crisis. This is definitely what's happening in the island is a human crisis. With the level of corruption, you can see a lot of it kind of like documented in different ways. There's Bianca Grolo, which is kind of like a independent investigator, like a reporter, and she started making this uh, reports about like different conditions that the island is facing, and then comparing it directly with Hawaii, which is in a similar way they were like forced to become something they're not, and Hawaii is a
Mhm.
totally different country, and now only 10% of their population is still living in Hawaii. And
Wow.
the ones that are living in Hawaii, the conditions they're living in Hawaii, their home country, are very devastating. And
Mhm.
I see where they want to, like, I see how Puerto Rico can become Hawaii if we don't do something about it. That's
Right.
why tourism is very important. That's why, for example, in the Whitney Museum right now, I highly recommend it. There is an exhibition going on right now from Puerto Ricans and their pieces. It's incredible. They talk. It's a protest. They
Okay.
did activism. When you listen to Bad Bunny, for example, his song El Apagón, it speaks a lot to the Puerto Ricans because he says,
Mhm.
"Wow, another black hat," and
Mhm.
he's talking about us. He's
Right.
talking to us. And then like he starts talking about, well, let's solve this with, I don't know, let's go to the bleachers and just like sit down and smoke a blunt, for example.
Mhm.
I'm allowed to say that. But another way of artivism, art and culture is becoming one of the most important ways to express pain, to actually
Mhm.
like, let it out so we can keep our sanity, but
Right.
also letting it out in an effective way that communicates to the oppressor. Hey,
Mm.
we're not liking this. If you continue to do this, we're still going to grow in strategies to kind of like survive in this land because we want it. This is our land. And we are
Mhm.
being like, there's so many laws that are so discriminatory. There's law 60 that practically allows millionaires from other countries to come to the island and not pay taxes. If you're a Puerto Rican and you're a millionaire, you still have to pay taxes. If you're
Mhm.
a Puerto Rican, this law does not apply to you. How is that even possible? So you're forcing people that has way more economic power than the average Puerto Rican to buy everything. All that, like we're having a house shortage right now. Like it's really hard to get a place to live in Puerto Rico that's affordable because they're driving all the prices up. And Airbnbs from a couple of years back, like around the last 5 years, have grown more than 20%. That is a lot
That's a
because
lot.
there's not a lot of new development going on right now in the island that is driven for just common housing. So everything is becoming an Airbnb. This whole identity of being Puerto Rican and Caribbean is being romanticized. What are we going to do about it? We have to express
Mhm.
ourselves. Again, artists.
Right. That was something I was actually thinking about asking you today, what you think about, it seems like there's a lot of people living in the States that wanna build land in Puerto Rico and are interested in that. So what do you think about that?
It's very conflicting as a Puerto Rican because I am totally fine with like sharing, but this is a very small piece of land. And the fact that a lot of people is just looking at the opportunity economic opportunity. Listen, everybody should take opportunities. If you have an economic opportunity, you should take it. But always with consciousness, always willing to understand the dynamics of that country, what's happening in
Mm.
that country. I cannot imagine myself seeking opportunities in, I don't know, Thailand, Laos, Malaysia, where there's a lot
Mm.
going on, but it would be super accessible for me to just like invest and, buy a piece of land. But then again, what can that imply? So in this dynamic specifically, we're seeing a lot of ignorance because there is not like ignorance in the sense of knowing the impact of taking advantage of that opportunity. That's definitely going to be a win
Right.
for you. But where does that let you as a person who does things consciously?
Mm.
This is very important because it's part of our humanity. It's not fair for you to be a philanthropist and then say that, well, I take advantage of opportunities because I deserve to live my best life. But as a
Yeah.
human being, what does that imply in your ethics? What kind of ethics are you applying to your existence in this world? What kind of legacy are you living? What kind of damage are you actually gonna do in order to take that opportunity for you? And I am, as long as people understand that less is more, simplicity in this island is what makes life beautiful. We're
Mm.
simple. We love simplicity.
Mm.
We love
Yeah.
things. But then again, if your intention is to make an Airbnb, and in order to do that, you want to buy a piece of land that is very important for a community, and then develop a giant Airbnb complex there, and then like kind of like displace a lot of people from the area, it kills what makes Puerto Rico beautiful, which
Mm.
is culture.
Right.
Recently, I heard about a 75-year-old lady that was kicked out of a house she has been renting for decades. Because of course she wasn't able to buy it, but she could afford the rent. Now this person comes in, buys the property, and turns it into an Airbnb. So now she has 60 days to leave. 75-year-old lady now is facing 60 days of anxiety because she's not gonna be able to find just right away a house. Not in her area, not as accessible as probably she was able to pay.
Mm.
So now she has to face all of that on top of all the corruption and health issues that that can bring, on top of the already existing conditions that she probably has. And this is a form of genocide. Again, taking an
Mm.
opportunity is beautiful if you know how to do it consciously. What are you willing to give back in order to show your gratitude for the privilege of being able to actually do that? But there's a lot of people that comes here with a mentality of only capitalizing over somebody else's culture because they're putting something there because there's already something beautiful there,
Mm.
not built. How do you give thanks for the stuff that was there already? How do you give thanks for the events? How do you give thanks for the food, for everything that is different from your country that you did not build, but now you're going to capitalize for it? Because people
Mm.
want to go to the Caribbean because of the culture of it, of the music, because of the places, the beaches, but also the people. How do you give thanks for all of that?
Yeah.
So it really takes much more than just putting a house that you can rent. You need to make it like you need to know that you're putting that house because people wants to go there. Why
Right.
do you go there? Because of what the people has built.
Yeah.
So again, it's all about consciousness, and there's a lot
Mhm.
in the culture of investing that breaks my heart
Mm.
because it takes out everything that has to do with not being individualist.
Mm. 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 Mm.
It takes out everything that has to do with community. It's all
Yeah.
private. It's all my property. It's all like don't trespass there. It's all like
No,
I have the law on my part. I did all legally, so probably it's okay. It's not okay.
no.
Genocides have occurred legally throughout history. Doesn't mean they were okay.
That's very true. Just because something's in a law doesn't mean that it makes it okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I like getting people from other countries is beautiful. It's an opportunity for us to learn because if you have that mentality to learn and teach, then that is something that builds up over the beauty of life,
Mm,
living all together and actually fulfilling the main purpose of being human. But
mm,
but disrupting that ecosystem is the danger because then you'll see that in a colony full of people that cannot like it's directly being affected by this max flux investing people just coming to the island and trying to just like buy in bulk. That's another thing that we probably the thing that buying in bulk is
mm.
the only level of just being discriminated because then you take much more and you take much more opportunity from people that needs it that they
Right.
need to live. And you can see like private companies, real estate companies just buying in bulk to sell
Mhm.
to people to buy in cash. A lot of Puerto Ricans cannot buy in cash. We don't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
So there's people that is coming from outside to buy in cash. And that is limiting Puerto Ricans to just rent. Again, working for another person, not having stability in their homes, not having a base where they can just like visualize the future, having kids. This is becoming a luxury. Having a
Mm,
family and a house becomes a luxury. So being Puerto Rican in Puerto Rico is another form of revolution because we have now understood that corrupt people and millionaires and people who wants to actually capitalize over Puerto Rico do not want us there. They don't. They don't. They just want to make money, and
and
that's
it's a
sad.
shame because the people are what make the culture so amazing.
Yeah. They're gonna figure that out once they don't have nothing more to capitalize on. That's the problem of neo capitalism. It takes what it takes with no consideration of like the let's say like this, not so biased. Let's say that their the concept of neocapitalism is based on a different meaning of progress, a different understanding of on what progress is. Progress can mean something for a group of people, but this kind of progress can mean destruction for another group of people. Where does that line becomes blurred or where does the limits of these concepts can be defined like will be defined? You need to actually have an analysis within neoliberalism and then an analysis on individualism and exploitation and then adding that to the concept of a colony, how people on a colony is highly oppressed and they live highly different from people on mainland. You can see that on Marshall Islands. You can see that on Hawaii. You can see that on Philippines. Actually, has like some story videos as well. The U.S. Virgin Islands. The more you get into the story of these places that are part of the U.S. but not treated equally, the more you will understand how violent it is to invest in a place that's trying to survive, especially
Mm,
taking advantage of natural disasters.
mm.
That's another form of
That's yeah. Do you think that our government has done enough or is doing enough to help the hurricane recovery in Puerto Rico?
oh no, God no! Like this is exactly what they needed. This is exactly what they needed to fulfill their dream of having a millionaire only at kind of like the Bahamas or something like that. They want
Mm.
to plug this into that. So the government in their hand, like I don't know if they're just like incapable. They don't really have that knowledge. I don't
Mm.
know if it's that or is like pure evil.
Sometimes
But
when people have power, it just I don't know, it
they
does
just
something to the mind.
they forget, and I truly believe that it's a combination of them not having the capacity, not having the preparation and the actual capacity to govern, but they kind of like inherit these positions in the government just because of the lineage of their families. We can see that with Vicky Rosselló being the son of an ex-governor. How is it possible to have two governors in one family? How does that like I don't know how it works, but it seems to me
Mm.
that it's kind of like you're just inheriting the power, and
Mhm.
you didn't actually have to prepare yourself for that. You didn't actually have to fight for it. You just had it, and you do with it whatever you want because you don't know the actual meaning of it. So what do? You do what you do best, what your family does best. Try to ha- kind of like get the best benefit for you and yours, your family, and not actually measuring the consequences of what you are actually doing because they didn't have to go through hunger or through um, a health crisis or like they have everything accessible, so they don't actually see what's happening below. No, there's a
Mm.
great movie that I love. It's called The Platform. It's on
Okay.
Netflix. I don't know if
I'll have
you
to
have
write
seen
that
it.
down.
It's really it's very it's a great illustration on how lower levels of society work and how
Mhm.
levels don't actually understand how it works. The dynamics go below the surface.
Oh, yeah.
A bunch of people just having a great time, but below the surface. So there's a platform in the middle that goes like up and down with food, and the lower the level, the less food you get because the people from other levels are taking all the food, and because of their greediness, they're taking everything the most they can.
Mhm.
And then when the platform goes like to the lower levels, there's no food. So people get violent, people start killing other people, they start getting crazy, they start generating like these social traumas. Like it's a beautiful illustration on how it works. And in Puerto Rico, it's starting to work like that. There's a book also that I would love to recommend. It's called in Spanish, Los Condenados de la Tierra from Franz Fanon, the damned of the earth.
Mm.
That's from Franz Fanon. Franz Fanon is he was an Algerian I think psychologo, psychologist. He would study the colonial mindset, and that's what the book's about. It's beautiful. It's dangerous. It's a must read to understand
Mhm.
the dynamics of what colonial mindset is, like how it works and how it turns into society in the physical world.
Mm.
How the colonial mindset affects the colonial living. It's incredible. And I can
Yeah.
see a lot of those characteristics in Puerto Rico. There's a lot of violence rising. There's a lot of lacking of knowledge in different things because they're making everything so inaccessible. Education, healthcare, security, everything is so inaccessible. And now life is unstable and people get desperate. There's a lot of suicides in Puerto Rico. There's a lot of unwanted pregnancy in Puerto Rico. There's a lot of
Mhm.
misogyny in Puerto Rico. Very traditional culture outside of the metropolitan area, very retrograde, kind of like very into the past. And it's incredible how I feel privileged to be able to see that
Mm.
because of education, because of how much I've dedicated myself into analyzing humanity itself, analyzing my surrounding, and I have been able to see it's a lack of everything that provides a sense of instability, creating mass trauma. It's
Mm,
really fascinating, but also heartbreaking because you have to live with it and you have to experience this yourself too. And that makes my art become kind of like stronger and raw because of
right. So speaking of misogyny, do you think that men and women are treated equally, or do you feel like there's an unfair, like, imbalance happening?
well, there are entities that protects human rights. We have a lot of rights. We are very free in many aspects of our lives, as you can see. But
Okay.
also another dynamic going on in marriages and families and couples, like these dynamics that are directly related with being with a person of the other sex. There's a
Mm,
lot of abuse. There's a lot of killings, or like there's a big violence against the the feminine gender, for example.
okay.
Because again, the very traditionalist mindset of wanting to want the woman to fulfill certain roles, or like acting a certain way, and it provokes a lot of violence because these
Mm,
a lot of people doesn't have this mindset of the world is changing. The world
mm,
has changed a lot already, and we are not living in a time where you can dictate to another person what that
right.
other person should do or what or would want to do. So
Mhm,
in the general picture, you can see that there's a lot of things that are super good happening for the women in the Caribbean, especially in Puerto Rico. There's a
mm,
lot of legislature in favor of our selves, our
okay.
defense, our place in society, our equal treatment. But in the mindset of the average male, or average citizen, because there's a lot of women that think a lot like this,
Mm,
you can see that because of the lack of access to new information, they are still in that mindset of misogyny. There's
mm,
a lot of misogyny in average culture. But in the matter of the law, in the field of the law, there's a lot of things in favor of women.
okay. Okay. And do you feel or do you notice any racism on the island? So I'm Hispanic, I'm actually half Dominican. And so something that I have seen with Dominicans and that there really is racism between, light skins and dark skins. It definitely
I read that
exists.
question and it became so important to me. Like I started to think a lot. Like you have a lot of incredible things in this interview. I find it
Okay.
super fascinating. Thanks.
Oh.
Um, there is a lot of institutionalized racism,
Mm,
and racism in culture itself because
mm,
of our nature of colony. There has been a lot of Eurocentric cultures imposed in Puerto Rico. Um,
okay.
Talking about Catholicism, like religion has been a very Eurocentric. African religions have been demonized, even though here in Puerto Rico, you see a lot of people practicing spiritism and other forms of
Mm,
religions outside of Catholicism. There has been a lot of prejudice and demonization of it, saying that
wow.
that is from the devil. Actually, these last days, I participated in a huge strike in front of the city hall because First Lady said that the carnival it's demonic. So the Ponce Carnival has been going on for more than 160 years, and she made
Demonic.
yeah, like the first lady of the mayor on my hometown, this became national news in Puerto Rico. She said that, and people was outraged. They were outraged because she also said that a lot of things that comes with that carnival brings homosexuality and a lot of sins that have to be eradicated. And that was a mind blown for the rest of the people that lives in Ponce and in the rest of Puerto Rico because they were like, "What in the world is she saying? Are we living in the times of the Inquisition now? Are they gonna start burning people now?" I don't know. That was very just to me. Like I felt it impacted the most inner part of my soul.
Mm.
So we did what we can do best. We went there and we made art and we sang and we danced and we practiced poetry. I was able to um, actually declare a poetry that I wrote based on the carnival in
Mm.
front of the city hall, talking directly to her. And to me, again, the demonization of the Black culture in the Caribbean is the demonization of our entire origin because mostly everything that we have still alive in culture wise comes from originary people, which are the so called Tainos.
Okay.
Um, I call them originarios because Taino is a name that was imposed by another person that's not in Puerto Rico. But yes, Boricuas.
Yes.
we we have a lot of heritage culturally speaking from them, and a lot of heritage culturally speaking from Black enslaved people that was imported in Puerto Rico. So demonizing it has implied that there's a lot of racism institutionalized and normalized. So it's not like a
Mm.
blatant racism. It's not like you will receive a letter that, oh, well, we don't invite you to this event because you're Black. No, it's more
Mhm.
like we're going to treat you very passive aggressively just because we think that you're inferior than us, but that we know that it would be wrong for us to tell you we don't like you.
Mm.
We don't like anything that has to do with negro or indio because we're mostly European. You'll see that on
Mhm.
conversations with people that goes like, "Well, see, but my grandma, she's German," and blah, like, yeah, it's good to talk about your origins, but the way you say it, the context you say it, or when you say, for example, you get a white skin boyfriend, and they go like, "Ah, you're fixing the race." Like, what is not my intention to what? Why would I like? How does that fix the race? How does having lighter skin fix the race? Like, what do you mean? So this is institutionalized. This is stuff that they don't know. Like people mostly don't like. It's just unconscious.
Mm.
There are a lot of races that promote racism, but people it's like it's normal to say it. It's not an insult. It's normal to say it. Like people goes like, "Oh, arreglar la raza, you're gonna fix the race," or like stuff like that. That they don't like. I've heard it from my abuela. I've heard it so many times. I've heard also like a lot of things about my hair as well. And they're my mom and my abuela, my mom and my abuelita. But the thing is that I know that they're coming from a place of love, and this is coming from subconscious. Um,
Right.
so it's like kind of like a normalized thing because I let those things go. Like I don't start like saying stuff. I just say, listen, you need to
Mm.
understand that I don't like that is not necessarily good to have like the whitest skin in the world in a Caribbean place. Like I tell those jokes just like
Yeah.
kind of like think about it, but not feel bad about it because I love them and I know that they didn't come from a place of hate or racism. It's just
Mm.
racism involved in their
Right.
cultural memory. another thing that brings up like something that I speak a lot in my practice is
Mhm,
historic memory,
mhm.
genetic memory. That's why Puerto Ricans have that attitude. That's why Caribbean itself has that this attitude. Like there's a lot of things on us that are just natural. We are born with it, and this is genetic or historic memory. There's a lot of pain from the past generations that have
Mm,
happened long before us that we have inherited. So whenever we feel that suppression, what we do is we fight back with culture and with like kind of like the past speaking through us. The
mm,
past of repression speaks through the repressed when the repressed is being repressed the way in the past where the other repressed people were being repressed. So it's a repetition,
right.
it's a cycle. And I have a lot of hopes in this. That's why I
Yeah.
dedicated so much time to it because it is also a tool to
Mhm,
educate consciousness on the masses so they can
mm,
understand what's actually going on. There's a background between all these dynamics, and these backgrounds come from the real past, the big past, the past of pain and a blatant exploitation. It's happening again in a more legal way.
right. But what I think is amazing is that I feel like our generation are the ones that are changing it. You know, we're the ones that we have these conversations with our family members when they make these comments to us, and we're the ones that are like, you know what, this is not how it should be.
Yeah, and I believe it's because we were born in the peak of our society, and now we're seeing it
Mm,
going down. This is not something that past generations have lived. They lived all the way, seeing the progress, seeing the advances, and how it was all benefiting everybody. But then we just were born into a place that was like okay, but now it's going to a crisis. It's really hard now um to be able to have one full-time job with your insurance assured 30 years after you work in a house. That's something that we will not see again. So we have to
mhm,
actually kind of like change the way we see our future because we cannot expect necessarily to have a stable home with a stable job and
right.
stability overall unless you have the chance to do it and because there's people who does but most of us specifically in Puerto Rico cannot think of that.
Mm,
We cannot think of that. I have a friend, she's a reporter, really good. um she also has a radio show and eventually I'll pass it to you. It's an AM
yeah,
station here in Puerto Rico, very local.
yeah.
But the thing is that she had a friend ask her, "So, what is your goal for the next 5 years?" And she
Mm,
was, "My goal is to still live in Puerto Rico."
mm,
So it becomes so hard to live here that it has actually like just the fact of being here, it's a goal.
wow.
And that hit me because that means that a lot, like when you don't have to be on survival mode, you're able to see yourself in the next 5 years becoming something else,
Right.
like affording something to do something bigger. But the constant survival, it hit me. Like we
Mm,
are surviving in this island for the love that we have to our families, for the love that we have to this land, for the compromise that we have to the culture. Because if we leave, we know we deserve better. But if we leave,
mm,
culture dies. Our
mm,
country will not exist anymore. I don't want to live in another country having a stable future, knowing that my actual home stands.
Mm.
Where am I gonna be back? I will not
Yeah.
feel that I have an origin anymore. That is painful. And that
Mm.
creates mass trauma. A lot of Puerto Ricans have trauma, different traumas, very dark traumas.
Mm.
Traumas because of the blackouts, traumas because of the hurricanes, traumas because of the earthquake. We
Mm.
had it pretty recently, and in the south was the most hard part where we actually felt it, and we saw a lot of houses just go down. A lot of people took their lives. Not a lot of people died, but because of the situation, they took their lives. A lot of people were just like sleeping outside their homes like for months. And a lot of people just left to never come back. It's that hard. But it's that painful as well, because then in the most terrible situations, we have seen communities just like help each other with real love. It's something that you don't see anywhere else. It's the land and it's the people. I can tell you from the places I've seen in my life, from the places I've lived in, many places outside the US, inside the US, Thailand, Colombia, Argentina, um, many places. And I've never seen what I see here. It's so weird, but
Mm.
it's just so unique. You feel like everybody knows each other. You
Mm.
feel you can give your life to a person that you don't know and it's gonna be okay because it was the right thing to do. Not because you want to be a better human, but because it's just natural to do it. Inside of all the terrible colonized mindset,
Mm.
misogyny mindset that we have as a country, there is also beauty of humanity itself. It's in
Mm.
the most, in the purest form that I've seen.
Mm.
It's weird.
That was
If
really well
you
said.
have a chance, if you want to be just real, so, like if you want to learn how to really exist in your skin, you need to come to a place like this. Like start seeing like all the repression cannot crumble you down if you practice existing yourself in your own self with all the people without thinking of you as an individual that has to thrive, but as
Mm.
a collective that has to survive. Is so different. It's hard, but it's beautiful.
Mm. So speaking of culture, what are some traditional Spanish meals or Puerto Rican meals, I should say?
Well, there's a lot of food in here. So a lot of the things that we eat have plantain on it. We have tostones. Everybody knows tostones, mofongo.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a lot in common with República Dominicana, Dominican Republic.
Okay. Okay.
Lot in common because mango is made with also like plantains, and
Oh, yeah.
it's like it's kind of like mofongo is kind of like that, but then like it has like all the meat or the vegetables inside. We have
Mm.
the tostones, we have the mayo ketchup with the tostones, which is a mayonnaise with ketchup, and then we just like add a little bit of garlic in it, and you have like a beautiful dipping sauce.
So
We
good.
have, of course, oh, this one's good, yuca al ajillo. Yuca al ajillo is a garlic bottom, kind of like garlic butter with garlic oil with yuca. So good.
Oh, that
And
sounds so good.
over it, you have the pernil lechon. Good. It's some pork. but made a la vara. So it's on a stick on the fire, and you just like go around it like this, kind of like
Mhm.
roast it until it's totally cooked, and then yeah, it's awesome. That oh my god, there's so much good stuff. We have fried meat, of course. Like this is something you'll find everywhere.
Oh,
Fried
yeah.
meat, tostones, mayo ketchup, mofongo. So this is like the main thing. Then you have arroz con gandules, which is rice with gandules. It's like kind of like a little bean, and the taste is amazing. And you usually have
Mm.
it with pork and yuca guajillo. So there's a lot of frituras as well, like fried stuff, like alcapurrias. Oh, so good. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like yuca
Oh,
with meat inside. So good. Then we have the relleno de papa, which are like potato, kind of like fried potato with fried potato balls with meat inside as well. And then we have the like usual empanadillas, or like there's a big kind of like conflict in the island because some people call it empanadilla, some people call it pastelillo. In Ponce, we call it empanadilla, and that's it. Like you don't come here to say that it's pastelillo because you're gonna get mad at you. But you can have something like pastelillo or empanadilla for like a pizza. Even you can even have it with shark meat, like shark meat empanadilla. There's a new trend happening that is uh, crocodile in the empanadilla.
oh
Yeah,
my
because
god.
yeah, it's weird because like it's a way to get rid of an infestation that has occurred recently for caimans. You're gonna be able to find a lot of caimans now in the rivers because they were imported and now we don't know, like they have become like a plague. So that thing.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, and people here like keep experimenting, but this is like the most common that you will find in almost any menu on in any place in Puerto Rico, and I highly recommend each one of them.
Yes, and what are some must-see sites if you're going to Puerto Rico for the first time?
You need to stay a long time in Puerto Rico to actually see everything, all the beautiful things. But
Yeah.
the most important things to see, I believe that if you want to go see historic sites, if you like architecture, Old San Juan is a must see. It's imperative. It's one of the most touristic site of Puerto Rico is that one, but it has its reasons. I highly recommend to see that beautiful city. It's a very old colonial Spanish, beautifully built city. Old San Juan. Then you have beautiful beaches in Rincon. A lot of our tourists go directly to Rincon because there's a lot of surfing. So if you love to surf, you love nice beaches, beautiful sun, nice music, and like a good touristic infrastructure where you're not gonna be so lost in Spanish and you'll be able to speak a little bit more of English, then Rincon, Old San Juan. That's the two spots that I highly recommend for tourists to come here and visit first.
Hmm. And are you a fan of Bad Bunny? I know Christina told me that some of the older generations in Puerto Rico that maybe they think he's a little bit too much. But I mean, I have to say I love him. I mean, I don't know if you were watching the Grammys, but when he came on and performed, I mean, everybody was up and dancing. I was like, for me, this was the performance of the night. He was just so amazing. But what is it like to see him be so successful? I know a lot of like the younger generation, they just love him so much, seeing him become so successful and being from the island.
He is a phenomenon.
Mm,
He's a phenomenon. I'm a big fan of it because of the
yeah,
way he used art. He's an artivist.
yeah,
He is an artist. He
and he
has
seems like he cares for the people.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He has Puerto Rico not only in the map with a romanticized idea of what Puerto Rico is. He put Puerto Rico in shame. He put the government of Puerto Rico on shame because he's using his fame to unveil the reality of being Puerto Rican. And the
Mm.
reality is not romanticized, it's raw. It's blackouts. It's a documentary on your music video. That is Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a human crisis right now. That is Puerto Rico. Is an abused woman. That is Puerto Rico. And he has let it know. A lot of the songs
Mm.
that he uh, has, the lyrics talk directly to the Puerto Rican people with the misogyny, with the mass killings, with
Mm.
the rising violence and corruption. One of the most important, the displacement, the gentrification that we're suffering. The fact that a lot of people that are not even Puerto Rican are coming to Puerto Rico saying now that they are Boricuas because they live in Puerto Rico. That is disrespectful. And that is disrespectful. That causes me to be
Yeah.
so mad. And he has
Well,
exposed all that. He has exposed the fact that we don't need to adapt to other people in order to be recognized as who we are. He speaks
right.
that. He speaks español en todos lados. He forces people to understand him. You want to know? Well, I'm going to tell you, but I have not yet adapted to your language, so I'm going to say it in mine. You can put subtitles. That
Mm.
is Barbary. That is artivism. He
Mm.
he is a nice precursor of what artivism should do for a repressed society.
Mm.
Kudos for
And
him.
is there anything that you wanna leave us with, for anyone that's living in the States watching this that may not be aware of what Puerto Rico is going through or
I'm gonna speak to the diaspora. To all the diaspora, we love you. And
Hmm.
our land is calling you to defend it. We love you and we know that you have been through a lot and that you are having it as bad as us because you're far from the sun, from the people, from the food, from the music, in order to be able to have a future, have a dignified quality of life. We admire you for that and we send you warmth and hope that your country is not gonna be erased. Also, I speak to everybody else saying thank you for listening. Gabrielle, you're awesome. This is this has been one of the most interesting interviews I've had. And
Oh! Oh, I also wanna add, if anyone's interested in learning more, if you have any resources to learn more, where can they follow you and where can they get those resources?
well, you can follow me on Instagram, Vida de Lápiz. There you're gonna be able to see a lot of my work. You can also find more information at Cat Playa Ponce, which I'm gonna be sending it to you.
Yes.
It's a cultural center that it's practically on my hometown and where I'm an artist resident. I'm gonna be sending you all that information. Also, I'm gonna be sending you all the books that I recommended, so you can, if you find the links to each one of them, then you can put it there, so people can instruct themselves about colonial mentality and about the relationship that Puerto Rico has had historically with the U.S. and how it has affected and divided as well. The mentality the people who wants to be independent from US and the people who wants to be a state from US, which is it's a very 50-50, kind of like super divided. So if you have an interview with a person that wants to be a state, um, you're gonna have a totally different conversation. And this is
Mm.
the interesting part. Puerto Rico is very divided, politically speaking, and in the mentality, you'll see how colonial mentality kind of affects different depending on your political view and your understanding on the history. If you don't understand history, then you will have a point of view that could be totally distorted. right? That's how you say distorted.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I'll send you all that information
Yes,
after.
please send it all.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for coming on. This has been really insightful for me. I really enjoyed learning more about your culture and all the issues the island is facing, and I hope that we've been able to raise awareness to that.
Yes, you will.
Yes.
Yeah. I thank you. I thank you for giving me this forum to kind of like expose my points of view and how I see it through my practice.
Mm,
Also to visibilize, I thank you a lot to for the fact of being able to visibilize other point of views that are very important social topics right now. Honestly, this is amazing. Thank you.